All right, we are live. We are live today. We are live today. Every Wednesday at noon EST. We are a few minutes behind. We were getting our stuff together, venting a little bit. This is a very important topic. We're getting we're getting more and more to the point where it's like we can't believe what people like what's going on right now. We're going to talk about it. Going to be talking about climate change and the infrastructure, especially in the United States, and how it's impacting everyone, and why we don't seem to be able to come together and figure all this out. But before we get into that, how are you? How are you, Denise?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. Getting ready for my birthday weekend this weekend.
that's right. That's right.
I
Have you
always
figured
thought
out what
like
you're going to do?
no, haven't figured out. I know we're going to dinner, but I think we're thinking of doing that rail trail. I think you and Kathy did that once on
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
so I think we may do that down in Rhode Island, not too sure. But my birthday always falls around Labor Day. So when I was younger, I just thought everybody was born on Labor Day. So when I started getting like older and people were telling me different dates that they were born, I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, everyone's born on Labor Day. Like it's
Really?
my birthday. It's our
How
birthday."
how old were you when you figured that out?
I don't know, maybe 6, 7.
Everyone's day. Everyone's birthday is Labor Day.
Maybe when I started going to school, I just figured everyone's birthday was on Labor Day. I mean, it is Labor Day.
That is cute. That
I
is
know it
cute.
was cute. It was cute back then.
Yeah.
Now
But
I'm angry, disgruntled, and just fed up.
well, hopefully, I think one of the things that helps when you're, what did I say before? Not to be angry except for a just cause. Where
Mhm.
we feel like this is a just cause, we're going to express a little bit of that, and it actually helps, I think, to get it out versus to hold it in, because those things, the anger can turn into, disease and unhealthiness. So
Mhm. Mhm.
you got to be willing to vent it out. Um, we received a social media comment this week, that just kind of had me shaking my head. So we're going to share that social media comment, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. We're going to talk about what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, the flooding there, and how it's impacting the whole town, and how it could have been avoided, and just the things that are kind of coming to the light as a result of this flooding. We're going to share some resources that we put together to help. We've been talking over the last few lives about water, droughts, flooding, climate change, natural disasters. We've been talking about this and how it has the capacity to impact everyone, and especially how it's going to impact our food supply. Those of you that are farmers that are out there growing, supplying food, supplying plant medicine, these are incredibly, as you already know, I'm speaking to the choir. What you do is incredibly important. It sustains large amounts of the population. We need our farmers. We need them to be enabled with the things that they need to protect themselves from what's coming, the climate. So we put together some materials that I'll share with you at the end of this live, that it will be free and available to everyone. 20 minutes. We put a lot of time into it. Hope that you find it valuable. So we'll talk about that too. But before we get in, I wanted to really quickly give a shout out to Major Bloom. They are a cannabis dispensary in Worcester, Massachusetts, local to where we are. We did a podcast with them. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly before we really dig into the nitty gritty. Here you go. So we'll drop this link in our
It looked like a
comments.
cool space, huh?
Oh, the space was beautiful. I even said it during the podcast that I was really impressed by the space, and they've got not even like the artwork behind me is pretty cool, but the direction that I'm facing, there's this huge, beautiful like piece of art that they've got that I don't know who did it, but whoever did it, they did an awesome job.
Mm.
Um, the space is amazing, and I had a chance to meet Ulysses, who is one of the co-owners of Major Bloom. Um, Black-owned dispensary in Worcester. They've got also just an incredible like staff and support system behind what he's doing. And he had been working on this for several years, kind of on the low. He had access to the space, waiting to get his license, doing having to be patient, like a lot of other people had to be patient to get their license, to find the space, to build it out. And boom, when I finally got a chance to see it, because I had known that he was working on it for quite some time, people to be in the space and to see it was great. So for those of you that want to check out Major Bloom, please, they do delivery as well. So if you're in the state of Massachusetts and you want somebody to deliver your medicinal cannabis, recreational cannabis, you can hit them up. They can help you out with that. And then you can also check out this podcast as well, where I got a chance to talk about the mission that we're on to grow whatever it is we want to grow, wherever it is we want to grow it. And for those of you that might be new, your first time checking us out, my name is Aja. I'm the CEO of Trella Technologies, and this is
Denise,
aka Snuffy G, an accomplice, a friend, a team member, and a support system here at Trella Technologies. And we are on a mission to grow whatever it is we want to grow, wherever we want to grow it, because we see an incredibly increasing need to do so. Food, plant medicine, vital to everyone. We need to have sovereignty. We need to be able to supply ourselves. And we need to be able to come up with different ways to do so, not just for the current conditions that we're facing, but for the conditions that are to come, specifically climate change. So let's get into it. You think we're ready for that now?
I think I'm ready for it. You ready for it?
Well, I want to show this social media comment first. Boom. That came through. Is that big enough, or should I expand it a little bit?
You can get it a little bit bigger.
All right, let me see.
If you can.
I should have.
I mean, you can see it. I think you're okay. There it is. That's nice. That's lovely. For my old eyes. Lovely.
Yeah. There you go. For the old eyes. So, climate change. We have a Facebook ad that's out there, and it is a video of our WeFunder campaign. And for those of you, let me just get rid of that banner getting started, because we are started. For those of you that are new, you can also become an investor in Trella Grow LST. So we have a WeFunder campaign at wefunder.com. I'll put that down at the bottom so that you can see that. We have our WeFunder campaign to raise additional capital, and that's really what fuels us. We don't have, a large VC. We have some angel investors that believe in what we do, and we have a huge community of regulation crowdfunding investors that support the bejesus out of us. I mean, the comments that we get are incredible. Keep going. We believe in what you're doing, all that type of stuff. But from time to time, you get people who just don't see it the way we see it, which is fine. That's okay. This presentation, today's live, is not about trying to convince this person who wrote this comment. It's about the people that saw this comment and may think that there's some validity and realness to it. And I just want to be really clear, at least by the end of this. I wanted to be clear that this is a cop-out. This is a distraction, these types of comments. So let's see. My Wi-Fi looks a little silly right now. Let me know otherwise.
Yeah, you look good for right now.
All right, perfect. So this person here wrote, climate change has been happening since Earth was created. It's the biggest farce ever played on humans. That was the comment. And I think people are missing the point when it comes to climate change. If you look up climate change in Wikipedia, or the definition, it'll say, the temperatures changing over time, or conditions changing over time that have happened historically, but are also mainly caused by man-made changes, such as fossil fuels, carbon, etc. There are also theories out there, lots of theories, that the climate is really changing because of chemtrails, because of different entities. There's even a theory out there that the climate is changing because of aliens. There are all different types of theories about why the climate is changing, and I think people focus on that so much that they don't understand that yes, the climate is changing, but we also need to change with it. So we wanted to bring this comment up so that people could understand, so that I could kind of speak to this a little bit more. it gets incredibly frustrating to watch people constantly argue about the reason behind climate change. Let's be critical thinkers here. Is the climate changing?
Yes.
Is it changing to the point where it's starting to change how we live, how we sustain ourselves? Yes. We then therefore need to change with it. I can't spend my time worrying about the why right now. Maybe once we get this thing under control, we can come back and figure out what happened so that we can learn from it and not have it repeat again to some extent. But you can't just sit around and go, the climate's changing, and that's just what it does over time, and we're just going to have to weather the changes. No, 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 no. Those types of things make people extinct. Get rid of different tribes, different cultures, etc. Animal species, all these things. There are things that we can do. I mean, we're incredibly innovative people. We can figure out solutions to stop ourselves from having to suffer all this damage, especially those of us that are most vulnerable. And I think a lot of these kind of cop outs are for people who have resources. They feel like, oh, I don't have to worry about this because I've got the ability to leave the country, or I can go further inland, or I can do XYZ. Meanwhile, the people that are that are truly stuck in their location, or the people that support them and provide for them, they need resources. So we're going to go through what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi as an example today. But I really feel like those of you out there that are running around saying climate change is a hoax, it's a farce, say to yourself, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, therefore I don't have to do anything. That's the damage. That's what I'm trying to stop. You can have your belief about it being a farce. I don't care about that, but I do care that you won't do anything about it. That's the concern that I have. Snuffy, do you want to add to this?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it just gets. We just agreed that it's changing. How it's changing or why it's changing, that's to be determined and discussed in political theater, basically. But we need to do something to protect ourselves from it. And we're going to see more and more of food migrations and climate migrations across the world, where it's going to be too hot to live. And we're going to see a lot of it. And we may even be those people that have to move in order to survive. So if you think it is a farce, that's your prerogative. But you're going to be here all alone in a desert with no resources. And because you refuse to do anything. And I'm not just talking about this person. I'm just talking about anyone. Like, oh, well, I'll be dead by the time that happens. Well, yeah, possibly. But there's a future here that we have to consider. Future for like our children, or even just for humanity, that we have to be kind of cognizant of. If you want to be selfish and think, well, I'm going to be dead, then that's your prerogative too. But in the meantime, stop contributing to the acceleration of the climate change too.
Yeah. And I think there's a false sense of security that some people have. They think that our infrastructure, they know, like some people, they know, all right, maybe our infrastructure is a little old. Our infrastructure is nowhere near ready for this type of stuff. And Jackson, Mississippi is one of several different examples. The slightest changes in temperature and flooding are pushing our infrastructure over the edge.
Yep.
And in most cases, government officials, federal, entities, etc., are aware of it. They know, but they're so overwhelmed. There's so much infighting. There's so much political back and forth that the ability to actually act is being significantly delayed to the point, or none at all. There's really no action. There's just finger pointing again. This finger pointing and this constant focusing on who caused it and why is not what we need to do. We need to be acting. We're past the why. We're on action right now. We're on action. It's changing. We got to change, or leave, or be removed. One or the other. So we'll get into what's been happening in Jackson, Mississippi. This here, though. All right. So Denise, on a more kind of pleasant, more fun note, I've been seriously obsessed with watching.
You have been.
So for those of you that are new to Denise and I and how we got together, how we met playing women's tackle football years ago, years ago, over
Years ago.
about 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've always been a fan of watching football and not so much the NFL. Lacey, who's that? CB. Is that cool?
Where?
CB. I don't know. Peace, ages,
Oh,
and
I don't.
Snuffy. Thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. But yeah, stick around. We've got more. So we met playing football, and I kind of took a pause from watching the NFL for my own purposes. Just not really feeling the NFL after Colin Kaepernick, even before Colin Kaepernick. The way they were treating people with head concussions and that
Same.
yeah, that was bothering me too. So when Deion Sanders, also known as Coach Prime, when Coach Prime decided to take the job as the head of the Jackson State football team, which is an HBCU in Jackson, Mississippi, I got interested again and started watching. They've got some not documentaries, but they've got like a little series, a series out, some episodes, so you can get behind the scenes information on what he's doing there, and he's doing some incredible stuff with some of his own money and some of the money of other individuals, other celebrities. So they kind of totally revamped the program, and they have their first game this Sunday at FAMU. And last season, for those of you that don't know, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, had a huge interruption to his health. He almost lost his leg from a football injury, never got taken care of. Wound up getting 3 different blood clots. They almost had to take his whole leg off. It was severe. This year, now he's dealing with infrastructure problems in the city of Jackson, not just at Jackson State University, but the city is now impacting what's happening at the school. So they are on their way to their first trip, but now they had to relocate because of this water emergency. The water emergency, as we're going to go through, was really kind of started not just by the flood, but by bad infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Decades of a problem that they knew about.
Right. So we wanted to bring this up as an example for people who think that, FEMA's got you, federal government. I mean, we've seen. I mean, if you saw Katrina, and we haven't gotten much better. There's been some small improvements here or there. I think there's been more awareness. There's been a little bit more of people trying to be, responsive, not proactive, but responsive after the fact. But I'm looking for proactive, things taking place, not so much being reactive, because this is just one example of many that we're going to have to deal with as our infrastructure gets tested. So Mississippi had a lot of rain. Let me just get to the next tab we've got here. Thank you, CB, for that comment. Stick around and let us know where you're checking us out from. We'd like to know where people are listening in and following us. Wow, this banner up here is really taking over the screen.
It's very huge.
It wasn't like that before.
No.
Fresh. There we go.
There we go.
So mayor urges residents to flee ahead of the rising river waters in Mississippi. Get out now. And this is the mayor of Mississippi. This is after a day after warning residents of Jackson, Mississippi. Let me zoom in a little bit. A day after warning residents of Jackson, Mississippi to get out now, the mayor of the state's biggest city is urging them to not take evacuation warnings lightly, as people tend to do, as record-setting rain threatens to flood streets and creep into homes within the next 2 days. This is a while ago. It also says that Lumumba told CNN earlier, the mayor, that Sunday people should leave the city as soon as possible, saying he was worried about the repeat of the damaging February 2020 flooding. So this is something that I think gets Snuffy riled, is that it happened before. 2 years later, it's happening again, and there hasn't been much progress.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I don't know if, we're going to talk about everything. So I'll save it for that when we start talking about it.
So,
Memories of the 2020 flood. Ugh. I know things were happening in 2020. We were in the middle of COVID. Nobody knew what was happening. I get it. But we've had a couple of years now to kind of settle down and figure some shit out. Pardon my French. But no, it doesn't seem like anybody has figured anything out when it comes to probably mitigating some of the flooding and the infrastructure part of it, especially the water treatment plants, which you'll get into in a minute.
yeah. And so now, if you look at the next article that we had, the water crisis in Jackson has gotten so bad the city temporarily ran out of bottled water to give residents.
Can I raise my hand? They were only passing out 700 bottles. Sorry, 700 cases of water. 700 cases of water in your largest, in your capital city? What are you doing?
All right. Yep. Turned away 700 cases of water ran out. Yeah. Incredible.
In like 2 hours or something.
You can see down here, people line up for water in Jackson on August 30th, 2022. Now, here's the kicker. It's not just the flood. It's not that, the water raised up and damaged some equipment. Not really. We were trying to pull up some flood maps, to get ready for this. And, unfortunately, we couldn't get everything the way we wanted it to look right. So we decided, let's just, push that off for another time. Most water treatment plants, facilities are located close to water. A lot of them are actually in flood zones, in FEMA flood zones, or very close to them. So a threat of flood is almost always a part of it. It's a part of the game. The issue is when you get this flooding, it changes the dynamics of the system, the amount of soot, sediment, residue that has to go in. The equipment has to work harder. It's not water damage. It's the equipment is being like pushed to its limit, and that requires you to have your equipment's being pushed to your limit, your staff's being pushed to the limit, etc. So explanations. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. Explanations for Jackson's failing system are complicated. Damage this summer to pumps at the main water treatment facility made failure increasingly likely as the summer progressed, the governor said, and flooding of the Pearl River, which runs right along the water treatment plant, after heavy rains last week affected treatment processes and therefore the amount of running water the system can provide. This week's trouble comes as the water system has been plagued with problems for years. And with the city already under a boil water notice since late July, which I didn't know that, for what the state called a water quality issue. So
that was only a boil water notice for this year. Last year they had one too in February.
Right.
Twice. I think it was twice. Yeah. Yep.
So it's not so much in this case, I want to double check, and I'll hold my complete. What do I want to say? I'll hold my judgment until later. But this wasn't so much the flood water rising and affecting the pumps. Like, it wasn't that the pumps got exposed to water and that they shouldn't have. No, it was the system got overworked with a different type of flow, different types of materials going through the water, people having to, be on call 24 hours a day. I mean, they don't staff a lot of these water treatment plants enough. Back in the day, when I was working as a consultant engineer for natural catastrophe risk engineering, I had to visit water treatment facilities. Off the bat, normal operation, they're nasty. It's a gross process of removing all that sludge, all that sewage, so that you can create fresh, clean water to provide to the area. It's a very dirty environment. But when you start adding more to it and you're causing flooding, everything that's all the sewage, that's just all the oil from our cars, from the processes that we use, the manufacturers in the area, all that waste gets forced into these water treatment facilities, and they just can't handle it sometimes, unless their equipment is really well maintained, new. If they having backups, all these things cost money. It takes foresight. You have to be proactive. You can't just try to fix this during the incident
The
as we're speaking
crisis.
right now.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So I think this was all we had for this one. Or did we have a picture? Here are some water bottles. I think there was also a picture of the plant in one of these. There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
So you can see the river, the water right there. And here are all the different, equipment. You got water coming in, sediment settling in these things, different pumps pumping things throughout this whole facility, and then it gets put back out into the public utility. So it doesn't really mean you don't have to have water here. Like the flooding doesn't have to come all the way over the river and get into this property to cause the problem. It's just overworking the infrastructure, the system itself. That's what's causing the problem.
Which goes back to the topography that we were talking about last live, about the changing topography too. Especially with the droughts, and there's nothing there to absorb when it does rain, or there's more development that's happening around the area. Like that's a big, huge thing that I don't think that we talk enough about either, is the changing topography, and then you're not changing the infrastructure to, kind of
take that into account.
Yeah, take that into account.
Yeah, exactly. These pop-ups are brutal.
I know, they really are.
So just another headline. I mean, the city is really going through it. The news release, though, let me zoom in again, from the Jackson, Mississippi, gives a little bit more information on exactly what happened. So you can see here, insufficient number of certified operators at these two water treatment plants, JH Fuel and OB Curtis water treatment plant. Insufficient number of maintenance staff. I'm telling you, it's not just the equipment. You have to have the right personnel. They have to be trained. They have to be available. If the entire area is flooding, their homes might be impacted. So the ability to get them there might be limited as well. Failure of multiple raw water pumps. Raw water is the stuff, the gross stuff. This is the stuff that hasn't even been filtered, that hasn't made it through the first stage. That's the stuff that probably causes the most damage and has the ability to cause the most damage. You can see that there. Failure of multiple raw water pumps. Low levels of water in the storage tank. The storage tanks that's the clean water where they're holding it. They don't have enough because they can't pump it enough through to get it clean to put it into the water storage tank. Low water pressure impacting proper sanitation and educational opportunities. So the way that things work is not all cities, but some cities use storage tank, and just the pressure of the water in the tank is all that supplies pressure flow to the rest of the city. I don't want to get too nerdy about hydrostatic forces and stuff, but if you don't have enough water stored up, you don't have enough pressure in the system to actually push that water through the pipes to supply it to where it needs to be supplied to. So one little thing, in the cog, one little mess up in the cog impacts everything else down the line. Disinfection levels not consistently optimally developed, which means that you're getting bacteria like E. coli, etc. Giardia, rough stuff.
Giardia,
have you ever had a Giardia infection? I have.
No. I've seen it in my dog. My dog had it, and that was just really bad too. So I can only imagine how it is for humans.
Yeah, no, these bacterial infections are no joke. So,
and here's a little note too. FEMA, sorry, not FEMA, the EPA has given a number of citations to Jackson too, and this OB Curtis water treatment plant too, about their quality of water in the past couple of years. And they came up with a plan to implement more pH balances to make sure that this stuff doesn't kind of get out to the public. But it doesn't seem like, I don't know if they haven't done it, or it's just not enough to interact with the influx of all of these organisms. Just another side note too, FEMA has given them, I think, about $79 million to help with the infrastructure of their water treatment plants, but there has been no plans enacted on how they're going to use that money. So I just want to put that information out there as well.
Great, thank you. Here we go.
Ooh.
By way of Maryland, Detroit. Excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate you giving us that information. So, I mean, this, again, what we're trying to explain to everyone is, and if you're just joining us, we touched on this a little bit at the beginning, at the top of this. We hear people saying climate change is a hoax, it's a farce, it's people trying to make money, it's aliens, it's the Illuminati, it's chemicals. There's so many different theories out there. Stop focusing on that type of stuff. We need to take action. The climate is changing, and even the slightest changes are causing our infrastructure to have to overwork itself to the point where we're getting more failures than normal. And unfortunately, a lot of our federal, state, and local entities are aware that our infrastructure is severely weak, and nothing has been done about it. So I was talking to Denise about this earlier before we got on, in kind of, saying we have to be more proactive and figure out how to protect ourselves, our local communities. If you're a farmer in the ag space doing something, that deals with food, plant medicine, these are all very important things. As you already know, you're like the lifeblood of the country. We need our farmers. This funding that's out there, especially with this Inflation Reduction Act that's being pushed, all of this funding should be used for things that are more, forward thinking. So if you're thinking about upgrading your equipment, upgrading your farm, expanding your farm, please, please, please take into account that the climate is changing, that the infrastructure that you are relying on may not be there. Please don't just think that things are the way they are. And definitely don't just rely on your insurance company, because that's a whole nother thing. That's an after the fact thing. That's a worst case scenario. Everything didn't work out the way you wanted it to. The insurance company will hopefully bring you back whole. It's going to take you a long time. It'll take you several months, maybe even over a year, to get yourself back up and running. Meanwhile, the food and the plant medicine that you provide to people is not there, which means they're going to have to go somewhere else. They can't wait for you, no matter how loyal they are. They cannot wait for you to get back up and running, and they may not come back. So these things are, to me, I mean, month after month after month after month, the alarm bells are going off. And I really hope that people are understanding that climate change and being proactive and putting aside some money in your budget to do things that will help to ensure that you're going to be here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now is incredibly important, because these small, little things like that water treatment plant was not flooded. It was just that the flooding water pushed it over the edge, and it impacted the entire city of Jackson, the entire city, over a few pumps. That's how exposed a lot of us are, and we just don't really know it locally. Like individually, we don't know it. At the higher level, they know it. They are aware. But for us in the public, we may not know it. So please, you can do a little bit of education to help yourself out and find that information. What's this next thing that I have here?
And also too, I mean, I would like you people and local farmers, like, really go to these community meetings and push your representatives to be like, look at what are you doing to help us combat some of this climate stuff that we do have control over. Like, what are you doing? Are you giving us like some tax incentives? Are you helping us with equipment? I mean, go to them, push them. Don't wait for the federal government, but go to your local community and ask them what they're going to do to help you. Because, I mean, that's a whole conversation. You can't have this conversation on your own. You have to have it with the community, and, have these people help you too, and help facilitate. There are so many grants out there now that are coming from this infrastructure bill and the inflation bill. There's two of them, the infrastructure and the inflation, that I know it takes a while to do, but take advantage of what is being offered to help mitigate some of these climate crises that you can avoid.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Yeah. If you
in Jackson County, sorry, Ish, it's more Mobile, I guess. I think it said, I can't remember, but Jackson, Mississippi is in Hinds County. So, but this is in Mississippi itself. So this is interesting.
Yeah. So what we also wanted to say, when we were talking about, if you get access to money, if you have the budget, the money to be able to make improvements, think ahead, you need to at least have an understanding of what is your exposure and what can you possibly do about it. Especially when you figure out what your exposure is, like Denise was saying, Snuffy G, as she was saying, you can go to your local, government officials and push them and say, hey, here's what I'm dealing with. How are you going to help me, us, the community, protect ourselves from this exposure? I think a lot of it is they don't think that people may not have the information enough to be, I don't want to say weaponized, but to be, you may not have the information you need for the fight, to be able to make a good case, to be able to say, we know what's going on. We know that our water treatment plant doesn't have XYZ. We know that the main farm that feeds a good population of our community is in a flood zone. We want some sort of funding to be able to protect that.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with education. So what we did, and we can drop this link. I don't know if you've been able to do that yet, Denise. But
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now.
all right, we created this presentation. It's free. It'll walk you through the top 5 climate risks that farmers aren't ready for. So it covers increases in temperature, floods, hurricanes, hail, and wildfire. All of these things, you look at the news, you see that all of these things are increasing in how many times in occurrence, so how many times it actually happens, and in intensity. And for those of you that are responsible for the food and the plant medicine that we need, we really want you to be armed with the education that you need to have so that you can protect your business, so that you can continue to provide for all of us. We all need our farmers to be at the top, just like our teachers. There are certain certain things that people are doing that just don't get enough respect and play because people don't think that they're what's the word I want to use? Like high end, like I don't want to say hoity-toity, but like celebrities, they get all the like the media play. Our farmers, our teachers, not so much, but they impact our entire community. So please, if you're in the ag space and you're concerned, you don't know, you're looking for a little bit of support, a little bit of education on how can you determine, one, are you exposed to any of these types of things? And two, what can you do about it? Please feel free to check this out as a resource. You can also download the presentation. In this video, it's about 20 minutes long. In this video, I go through the presentation. I show you a bunch of different free resources that you can use to determine if you're exposed, and then also resources to figure out how to protect yourself. If you download the presentation, you'll get access to all of that. So we dropped that link in our YouTube. We will also put it in our LinkedIn. If you join our newsletter at Trella.io, we're going to be sending it out in our newsletter. We just created this, a few days ago. It took us a while to put it together, but we just launched it and made it available on our website just a few days ago. So please download it, take it with you, work your way through it. If you have any questions, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, you want a little bit of support, we're here. This is what we do. Schedule a free 20-minute consultation. We can walk you through it. We can figure out, what is your level of exposure. We even have tools and resources to help you figure out how to prioritize things if you happen to be exposed to several things, because there are some people that aren't dealing with just one item. They're dealing with several, especially if you're in the Midwest, in Detroit, Michigan. You may have flooding. You may have also some hail to deal with. If you're out west, you may have wildfire. Even New Jersey has wildfire exposures. That might be new for people to hear. Along the coast, the southern part of Jersey, it has wildfire exposures. So you have to be aware, and don't think that just because you see it on the news in that state, it's only in that state. You don't have to worry about it. Check it out for yourself. Feel confident and comfortable that you understand your exposure, and reach out to us if you need any help. We're here to help. So anything else, Denise, that we wanted to touch on?
I don't think so.
All right. Yeah. So at the top of the hour, we started with that social media comment that kind of pushed us over the edge in regards to the climate change is a hoax. You can also check out our podcast on Major Bloom. We were able to be a part of that beautiful facility. The interview that I had with them was probably about maybe 30 to 40 minutes long. They're a cannabis dispensary in Worcester, Mass. Check them out. Give them some play. We're here every week, but Labor Day is next weekend, and we have yet to decide whether or not we're going to be available for that. So stick around. Make sure you subscribe. That way you can get notifications. And if we are live next week, you'll get it. But we'll definitely be back the week after that. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Matt, peace, Matt, love, and please be proactive. Be proactive. Be proactive. All right. See you.
Bye, guys.